You are holding a chainsaw. And before you picture a horror movie, before you picture a lumberjack, I need you to picture a hospital room in 1785. A screaming woman, a surgeon, and a brand new medical device designed specifically to cut through human bone during childbirth. That chainsaw is now in your garage, and that is just number one. 22 objects you use, wear, or pop for fun. All invented for something that will make you put them down and never pick them up again. So, your house is full of things with dark origin stories. Most of them are sitting in plain sight. Let's go through every single one. 1. The chainsaw. In 1785, Scottish doctors John Aitken and James Jeffrey invented a flexible chain-link saw designed to cut through a woman's pelvic bone during obstructed childbirth. A procedure called symphysiotomy, performed without anesthesia on fully conscious patients. Women were restrained while screaming as surgeons split their pelvis to widen the birth canal. The timber industry adopted the mechanized version decades later. Every chainsaw you have ever seen is a direct descendant of a surgical instrument designed to split a human pelvis. 2. High heels. The first heels were not designed for catwalks. They were designed for war. Persian cavalry soldiers in the 10th century wore heeled boots to lock their feet into stirrups and stabilize their stance while firing arrows on horseback. It migrated to European courts in the 17th century, where Louis XIV wore red-heeled shoes to signal aristocratic status. The association with femininity came centuries later, almost entirely by accident. 3. The treadmill. In 1818, British engineer William Cubitt invented the treadmill as a punishment device for prisoners. Inmates at Brixton Prison were forced to walk a giant paddle wheel for up to 10 hours a day, grinding grain or pumping water. The explicit goal was exhaustion, monotony, and suffering. It was banned in Britain in 1898 as inhumane, then reintroduced in the 1960s as exercise equipment. You are voluntarily doing prison punishment. 4. Cornflakes. John Harvey Kellogg invented cornflakes in 1894 with one specific purpose: to suppress sexual desire. Kellogg was a deeply religious physician who believed bland food would reduce masturbation in young men at his sanitarium in Battle Creek, Michigan. His brother Will added sugar and turned it into a commercial product. The cereal aisle exists because a Victorian doctor was obsessed with controlling the sexuality of his patients. 5. Bubble wrap. In 1957, engineers Alfred Fielding and Mark Chavans sealed 2 shower curtains together and tried to sell the result as textured wallpaper. It failed. They tried greenhouse insulation next. That also failed. It was only in 1960, when IBM needed protective packaging for computer shipments, that bubble wrap found its purpose. Entirely by accident. The thing you pop compulsively in waiting rooms was rejected twice before anyone figured out what it actually was. 6. Play-Doh. In the early 1950s, Noah McVicker developed Play-Doh as an industrial wallpaper cleaner. It was failing commercially when his sister-in-law, a nursery school teacher, noticed children playing with it and suggested rebranding it as a toy. The name changed, the colors were added, the smell stayed exactly the same. Every child who has ever eaten Play-Doh has eaten wallpaper cleaner. 7. The necktie. In the 1630s, Croatian mercenary soldiers wore knotted scarves around their necks to hold their shirt collars closed during the 30 Years' War. French officers copied the look, brought it to Paris, and Louis XIV adopted it as a fashion statement. The object that signals professionalism in every boardroom on Earth is a battlefield accessory worn by soldiers for hire in a war that killed 8 million people. 8. The stethoscope. In 1816, French physician René Laennec needed to listen to an overweight female patient's heart. Placing his ear directly on her chest felt inappropriate, so he rolled a sheet of paper into a tube. He discovered he could hear her heartbeat more clearly than ever before. The stethoscope, the universal symbol of medicine, was invented because a doctor was embarrassed to touch his patient. 9. Listerine. Listerine was formulated in 1879 as a surgical antiseptic and floor cleaner. It was later marketed as a cure for gonorrhea, then dandruff. It wasn't until the 1920s that the Lambert Pharmacal Company invented the concept of chronic halitosis, a term they essentially fabricated, to sell it as a mouthwash. You are gargling a surgical floor cleaner because an ad agency in 1920 made you afraid of your own mouth. 10. Coca-Cola. In 1886, Atlanta pharmacist John Pemberton developed Coca-Cola as a patent medicine, specifically as a substitute for his morphine addiction. The original formula contained cocaine from coca leaves and caffeine from cola nuts, sold at pharmacies as a nerve tonic. The cocaine was removed in 1903 under public pressure. The world's most consumed beverage was invented by an addict trying to cure himself. 11. The microwave oven. In 1945, Raytheon engineer Percy Spencer was testing military radar technology when he noticed the chocolate bar in his pocket had melted. He hadn't been trying to cook anything. He had been building weapons for the US military. The first commercial microwave, released in 1947, was 6 feet tall, weighed 750 pounds, and cost the equivalent of $56,000 today. The appliance reheating your leftovers is a direct byproduct of radar research designed to detect enemy aircraft. 12. The electric chair. In 1881, New York dentist Alfred Southwick watched a man accidentally touch a live electrical generator and die almost instantly. Struck by how painless it appeared, he lobbied for electricity to replace hanging as the state's execution method. Thomas Edison, who opposed AC current, secretly funded the electric chair's development specifically to associate Westinghouse's technology with death. The execution device was a corporate sabotage campaign. 13. Barbie. The Barbie doll was directly modeled on a German novelty doll called Bild Lilly, sold in tobacco shops and bars as an adult gag gift for men, based on a risque comic strip character. Ruth Handler saw it in Europe, licensed the design, and rebranded it entirely for children. The most iconic children's toy in history is a direct copy of a joke gift sold in German bars. 14. Duct tape. During World War II, the US military needed waterproof tape to seal ammunition cases in the field. Johnson & Johnson developed a cloth-backed rubber adhesive tape for this purpose. Soldiers called it duct tape because it shed water like a duck. After the war, it was repurposed for sealing heating ducts. The universal fix-everything tool in every garage was designed to keep bullets dry in combat. 15. Nylon. DuPont introduced nylon in 1938 as a miracle material for women's stockings. Within 3 years, the entire nylon supply was redirected to the war effort for parachutes, ropes, and flak jackets. Women's stockings disappeared from shelves entirely. The material that defined post-war fashion was a military fiber that briefly had a civilian life before being conscripted. 16. Post-it notes. In 1968, 3M scientist Spencer Silver developed an adhesive that was, by every measure, a failure. Weak, non-permanent, and residue-leaving. 6 years later, colleague Art Fry, frustrated that his bookmark kept falling out of his hymnal during choir practice, applied Silver's useless glue to a strip of paper. The most ubiquitous office product in the world exists because of 2 consecutive accidents. 17. The fidget spinner. In 1993, Catherine Hedinger invented the fidget spinner while suffering from myasthenia gravis, a muscle-weakening disease that made it difficult to play with her daughter. She patented it, was rejected by Hasbro, and let the patent lapse in 2005, 12 years before it became a global phenomenon worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The woman who invented the fidget spinner made no money from it. 18. Superglue. In 1942, Harry Coover was attempting to develop clear plastic for precision gun sights when he accidentally created cyanoacrylate, a substance that bonded instantly to everything and was useless for his purposes. He discarded it. 9 years later, he accidentally created it again on a different project and finally recognized its potential. Superglue was a weapons research accident, discovered twice by the same scientist who failed to recognize it the first time. 19. The breakfast cereal industry. The entire American breakfast cereal category emerged from Seventh-day Adventist sanitariums that used grain-based foods as medical treatments and tools for suppressing what they considered immoral physical urges. C.W. Post, who invented grape nuts and Post Toasties, was a patient at Kellogg's Sanitarium before starting his competing company. The $40 billion breakfast cereal industry is the commercial legacy of a Victorian religious movement obsessed with controlling human sexuality through diet. 20. The taser. In 1974, NASA researcher Jack Cover invented the taser, naming it after the fictional novel Tom Swift and his electric rifle, as a non-lethal weapon after being disturbed by airline hijackings. Police departments initially rejected it as insufficiently lethal. It wasn't widely adopted until the 1990s, when research found it was far from non-lethal in certain conditions. The weapon, named after a children's book character, has been linked to hundreds of deaths. 21. Laughing gas. Nitrous oxide was discovered in 1772 and used exclusively at laughing gas parties, fashionable entertainment events where wealthy British guests inhaled it for amusement. It was a party drug for the upper class for 70 years. In 1844, dentist Horace Wells watched a man injure his leg at one of these parties while high on nitrous oxide and feel no pain, and realized he had just witnessed the future of anesthesia. Modern surgical pain management was discovered at a party. 22. The World Wide Web. In 1989, Tim Berners-Lee proposed the World Wide Web as an internal document sharing system for physicists at CERN to help researchers track projects, personnel, and equipment at a particle physics laboratory. It was not designed for commerce, entertainment, or social connection. Berners-Lee's original proposal was returned with the note, "vague but exciting." The infrastructure of modern civilization was invented to help scientists keep track of their paperwork.